All right,
Hello
go.
and good evening, and welcome back to another episode of the Lucy Davis Show. I think that's what we should start calling this, don't you? The Lucy Davis Show. This evening is going to be talking conscious conversations with the gorgeous BT. So as you've met on a couple of occasions previously, this is BT. He is based out of Florida. He is an absolute saint in my eyes. He has come into my life at a time when I definitely needed a bit of grounding because I felt as if I was floating away. And we've become very close. I'm very blessed that I've been able to connect in with his gorgeous partner as well. And yeah, it's just lovely to have you back on, BT. It really is good to see you. And purple suits you.
Well, great. Hey, we're grateful to be back on here. We love this time, get an opportunity to speak to everybody out there in your broad spectrum of people and new people that are coming on daily as well. So, which is just amazing. So yeah, we're here to definitely enlighten the world.
We're here to rock it tonight anyway, aren't we? So this evening, we are going to be speaking about spirit and soul energies. Okay, we're going to be looking at it very much from BT's perspective, because as we were talking about offline just before we jumped on, a lot of people believe them to be the same thing. And actually tonight, BT wants to kind of like lift the lid on that and go into more details. And then who knows where this conversation is going to go? I can imagine. Who knows where it's going to go? So BT, I think let's start there. Let's start with your interpretation, or at least from your perspective, what is the difference, or what is spirit energy and what is soul energy? And then let's talk about the differences between that.
Okay, in our Pueblo traditions, the spirit and soul are opposite. The spirit is connected with light energies. The soul is connected to flesh energies. And so we have spirit and light versus flesh and soul. Now, in our tradition, if you just think about it, and everybody has many beliefs out there, but if you just take an opportunity to at least open your mind, allow your third eye to really open up, allow the crown to guide you, allow your heart energies to just kind of woo you, and don't pay attention to that solar plex that confuses you. Allow yourself to be rooted here on this 3D, 4D realm that we're at currently. And so I'm going to just kind of talk frequency first and just kind of allow you to understand frequency. If we are of spirit and light energies, and we come from source, then that has to be, in my traditional belief, the highest frequency that is out there, because it is pure frequency of love, compassion, understanding, things of this nature that are the most beautiful part of our feminine energies. And so in our tradition, the spirit and light energy rest on our left side of our body if you divide the body in half. And so we have spirit and light, feminine energies on our left side. Now, as we believe in reincarnated stages. And so reincarnated stages are very different in different traditions, okay? Some people who are in the area of Christianity don't understand that Jesus Christ was a reincarnated situation. Take this into consideration. He was born, he lived his life, he died, he was put into a tomb, he arose again, went out and met his disciples and let them touch him and things of this nature, and then he ascended. Then at the same time, prior to him ascending, he had come down again because he had left the tomb. So there was two ascensions. And so in our traditional belief, one ascension isn't technically a true reincarnated stage. But if you come down more than once, that's reincarnation in our traditional belief. Okay, so let's kind of throw Christianity off to the side now. Now, in many traditions, reincarnated stages are pretty much across the board. When we look at cultures, not just here as an American Indian, but from around the world, many believe in reincarnated stages. And so on our right side of our energy, of our body, is the flesh and soul energy. Now, the flesh and soul energy is of a 3D, 4D realm or dimension. Okay. So if we have spirit of light energy that is of creator energy, which is highest energy, and we have flesh and soul energy, which is the 3D, 4D realm, you have an opposite plane. Yeah. Because spirit and light is always going to be higher than flesh and soul. Okay. Flesh and soul can reach up a little bit, but it'll never reach up to the spirit and light energy. They're separate energies. And so you have, let's say, hypothetically, as an example, for those of you who still remember record players, okay,
I do.
We have a 45 that runs on 45. That's why they call it a 45. And then we have a 78 that runs on 78. So one speed is higher than the other. And so if you have two different things on frequencies, then you can't have the same understanding, because one is going to be where you can't understand because it's a different frequency. And so the flesh and soul energy are of the lowest frequency, because we can maintain that here on this 3D, 4D world. Now, the question is, how do we have the spirit of light energy versus the flesh and soul energy be able to be one body? Okay. And that's something that really is difficult for most people, because in our traditional belief, it's the individual's choice of free will. Now, many of you out there have probably heard, which wolf do you feed? Do you feed the wolf of the left or the wolf of the right? Okay. And that's what that traditional saying means. Which wolf do you feed? Okay. Is it going to be the spirit and light energies versus the flesh and soul energies? Many of us who walk our path here on earth tend to live on the flesh and soul energies. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there are a lot of our friends who live in the auroric realms, you know, the spirit and light energies, and never come down into the flesh and soul. They're like so far out there that people can't understand them, right? I mean, I'm sure you know some people, right there, Lucy? You know, she's laughing, so I guarantee it she does, okay?
You.
You don't have to put anybody on the spot, you know what I'm saying? You know? But it's really interesting, okay? Because you can't live on both sides of the spectrum here on earth, okay? Just like here on earth, we are required to have certain things to live. I mean, like it or not, we need some form of monies to live, like it or not. If you can't do that, then there's some form of barter, but there's still some form of an exchange, okay? I mean, nothing that we can do is actually continually just given without anything returning, okay? Because then it's unbalanced. And so when we look at the flesh and soul energy, when you put your hand and you hit a wall, you feel it, okay? Might not feel good, but you feel it, right? Okay. Now, spirit and light, yeah. Now, spirit and light energy, okay, actually can go through dimensional things. Okay. How many of you out there have astro traveled? Huh? Astral traveling is not a 3D, 4D realm. Astral traveling is a spirit and light realm. Okay. 4D realm, 3D realm. All of us dream. Some dream in color, some dream in black and white, some dream terrific, beautiful, loving dreams, some have nightmares, okay? Those are all different aspects of spirit and light energy versus flesh and soul energy, the 3D, 4D realm. So in our traditional belief, when we look at spirit and light energies, we have some new areas, okay? And I'm just going to kind of show you some stuff here, okay? These are kind of my lesson guides, okay?
Love it.
You can see that, okay?
Beautiful.
See that, okay? All 4 sections there, Lucy?
Perfect.
Okay,
Yeah.
this here is who we are. We're of spirit and light. We come to the 3D, 4D realm, and we're upside down because we've never been in flesh and soul before, most of us, okay? Especially newbies. When you guys come down here and you're like just unbalanced, you're chaotic, you don't feel structured, there's no grounding. And then also at the same time, we experience all these aspects of hardship, anger, frustration, because we don't understand, because again, we're a newbie to this realm. Okay. It's no different than a baby learning how to walk. We fall down. That's just the way it is. But the beautiful part about it is we always come back and we always look upward, back to where we became. And so that's why when we talk, we always say, we all return. Okay. When we look at that from spirit and light, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. Sooner or later, your time here on earth ends.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's the simplicity of it.
That's the only certainty that we've got, right? And this is, I constantly bring people back into this, is you've got to do what you feel is right this lifetime, because the only thing that is certain is we're going up. That's the only thing we can guarantee.
Yeah.
It's what we do between the time that we're born and the day that our clock runs out.
Yeah.
That matters.
And some of us, okay, not everybody, but some of us have an opportunity to actually return and still come back through some form of a trauma or episode, which I love communicating with people like this, because again, they have so many questions. And there's always an answer behind it. Just know that. If you know people who have gone through this kind of life-changing events where they've passed and they've been brought back to life, some people actually say they've seen the light. Some people say, I didn't see anything.
It's interesting that you say that, because I literally did an interview yesterday with somebody who's very important in my life. And he actually had a heart attack in September 2018. I think it was the 1st of September, he had a heart attack and he flatlined and went over and made the choice to come back. And although initially he stepped into his human and was like, I need to get married, I need to have children, within a short period of time, he's gone on a beautiful journey now. Like, he's really stepped into his divine masculine and he's really stepped up. And I totally agree with you. I do. Because I was so close to passing as well, 5 days after him. Like, it's so weird. We're so linked, me and him. Literally 5 days after, I nearly bled to death. And I remember having that moment. I was laid in the hospital. I was having a blood transfusion. And I was like, this is where this stops. This is where my life changes. I surrender. Whatever you need me to do, I will do. I've just got connected to my purpose. I need you to give me more time. Because initially I was laid there going, they can't take me. They can't take me out. I've only just got connected to my purpose. Like, I know I've got a huge purpose. They can't take me. But I obviously needed to be humbled, and I obviously needed to really have that snapped into me.
Yeah. And it's really important, because in our traditional belief, again, our name is Piwalatha, means feather bunch flying to the cosmos. We believe everybody's an angelic being, just like you all know Lucy is, okay? And all of you are out there, are the same in my traditional belief, okay? So know that. And so, like, where we come from, this is the aspect of cosmos.
Love it. I love that image. Oh my. I'm loving the fact that you're set up at home now and you can show us all your pictures and stuff. I'm like made up here.
Well, it's difficult, because again, when I have all my stuff boxed up, it's almost, difficult to show people, because a lot of people are visual.
Yes.
There's people who listen, but actually do not listen.
Yes.
And that's just, part of it. Okay. And so when we look at this, if you see the 4 directions, okay, we have rainbow bridges in all 4 directions. And that's because of the cultural aspect of our tradition and what we believe. And so we believe we're from the cosmos, okay, out in this land. Well, if you look here, there's little aspects of different colors, and then there's a purple zone, and then there's another aspect of colors, okay? And those are traditional beliefs within our realm that spirit and light energies guide us to this rainbow bridge. Okay. The flesh and soul energy, because again, it's of earth, cannot guide us from our heavenly areas, so to speak. Okay. Or our star beliefs, whatever your traditional belief is out there. And so as we come together on this planet, we're basically in a form of a lotus energy. Think of that, a lotus energy, okay? In other words, we're here for compassion, the love source. We're here for the collectiveness of consciousness. If our brother's in danger, our brother is hurt, we're here to help them, okay? And that is energy of spirit and light. Now, on the flesh and soul side, many of us are compassionate. Many of us have caring. Many of us have this ability to assist others. But there are many here too who choose not to, okay? And that's their path. Again, we all come from the same different directions of our life, but our path changes as we move forward within the journey that we already had predetermined. Now think of that, predetermination, because when we look at predetermination, this is how we see everybody in the world, okay? Now we get a little clear there.
Amazing.
Okay. This is the universe of the cosmos, of the spiritual energies, okay? So each and every one of you is represented in some form of a light source energy here. Now you see some of these that are just black with a little bit of white and gold energy around you. That means that you've had the opportunity to come to Earth. You've experienced negativity to a point where it was affecting others too dramatically. And so you return back sooner than your normal path, okay? Because again, we're here predetermined, but if we upset the balance too much, like it or not, spirit takes us back, okay? Kind of like what you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
You know, I thought more of a path. I'm just getting on my path. But if you were continuing down that road of negativity, the spirit says, the hell with it, you're coming home.
Yeah.
Just the way it is. It doesn't matter. That's why the old saying is, we never know when we're going to go. Okay?
And it's really interesting that you say that, because I've had a few things playing on my mind recently of people that passed, in my opinion, too young. And when I actually stop and look at their lifestyle and how they were going, I totally agree with you. They were going down a path that was going to be extremely destructive.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a really beautiful thing to be able to retrospectively do. However, it's, you know, a massive part of me is like, well, that was obviously their path this lifetime. They needed to experience that so that they've kind of like done their soul mission, if you get what I mean. But it's such I love that. That's such a beautiful concept.
And then when you look at these other colors, okay, like here where you got all yellows, okay, and a little bit here, those are individuals who have light source energies that were positive for humanity. But at the same time, as we return back to source energy, okay, we take all that positive energy, and some people might think it's hard to understand. And I kind of had a little bit of difficulty within it myself, as I was taught by my grandmothers, okay? When we return back to source energy, source gets re-energized. Think of this.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Because again, if we're of energy and source creates energy, if energy returns, it absorbs that energy.
Of course.
Okay, so
positivity, then it's obviously going to be, I love that.
Okay. And so all these have different areas, like this here in the blue. This individual here was a person who worked with the collectiveness of consciousness. In other words, an individual that was in and around, and probably more like a gypsy, okay? And I know there's a lot of gypsy people. Yeah, all of us are at one point, okay? And so
I'm a wanderer for sure.
And so those are all different energies. Now, this one over here, when you look at it, it has red, blue, and green, okay? This is a very significant person, okay? And the reason why is the green energy is of heart source energy. So here's a person of pure love. Then it comes into the blue, a person who has pure love for the humanity. And then it comes into the red. That's an individual who was taken before he was meant to be taken, or before she was meant to be taken.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And so think of it from this standpoint. Think of people who are divulging and showing the corruption within the political realm. things of this nature.
Yeah, like
All
that
those,
Brandy Vaughan that we were talking about a short time ago. You know, she
correct.
was really raising the consciousness, wasn't she, on a certain subject? So, wow.
And so those individuals, okay, like Breitbart and some of these other people who have really raised the level of knowledge, truth knowledge,
Yeah.
okay, bringing that to humanity and explaining what's going on. Spirit will protect us, understand this. But at the same time, when we return back, we still have an opportunity to return right away again. Okay. Now, think of this. There are people who are ill, who go through a circumstance of death. They return back to life, but they're not the same person anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. They've changed completely. They're like no longer mean and angry or this or that. Yeah. Okay. Their whole concept of life has changed. A lot of times, this individual, known as another walk-in, steps into their life. In other words, now their body becomes their host.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Yeah,
but at the same time, that individual still has that ability to interact with their family and things of this nature. But a lot of times those individuals don't remember certain things that they should.
Right.
Within that family dynamic. If somebody brings something up, they might like go, well, I don't, really remember or recall. Yeah. And though the family will just say, well, it's because you went through this trauma. Yeah. It's not because they went through the trauma. It's actually because this person never was in that situation. He's a walk-in into this new host. Yeah. Or she is.
Wow.
Okay. And so we have all these energies always returning back to source. And if you look, I don't know if you can tell on the computer screen, but there's a swirl that's always in a counterclockwise motion when we return back into the spiritual realm, because that's the feminine energy. Okay. When we come to Earth, we come back in the right side, clockwise energy, because again, it's lower frequency. Okay. So that's one of the areas of truth that we have to understand on that reincarnated aspect.
Yeah, that diagram that you've just shown is fascinating. I absolutely love it. And do you know the weird thing about it is it feels at a cellular level in my body, it feels right. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah,
and I've not done any work with you on your traditions or anything, but at a cellular level in my body, I'm like, that's exactly as it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And see, this is where we're at today, because spirit and soul energies, although opposite, have one common denominator. Okay. Reality of truth. Okay. And so this here is what is referred to as the veil of humanity. Okay. And the veil of humanity, this section here, represents our traditional beliefs, bringing our traditional beliefs to humanity to assist them in the veil of humanity. In other words, seeing the truth. Okay. If you look down in here, all these different colors are different people within their journey.
Yeah.
Okay. We're all at a different aspect within our journey. But the difference is, if you look behind the veil, we have male and female in the corners. Yes. Okay. And those are the energies that we have as we walk through the veil of humanity. Is the male energy going to go ahead and cause deceit because of the ego?
Yeah.
Or is the female energy going to open up the heart to allow the ego to be basically washed away, to be able to receive the information of truth? And as we open up with a veil of humanity, the thing that we have to give up, the biggest thing, is our heart source energy. And that's why we lift it up to source. Yeah. We're saying we are of spirit and light. We recognize this. We are lifting up our spirit and light to source, because we are all one when it comes to source.
Yeah, I love that.
And so that one there is a real aspect of knowledge, because as we go through this area of time right now, we have many aspects of destruction coming towards us. Okay. And when we look at the aspects of destruction, we look at it from a standpoint of the cosmos, okay? Because we're not the only individuals here on this galaxy plane, okay? And so when we look at the demonic forces of today, most of the demonic forces are from other realms, dimensional, but there are some that are from the galaxies beyond our galaxy that are here on our planet, actually walking among us, bringing their negativity to take over our planet, to control us, to continue the slave identity that was initiated here on this planet in the original aspect of time, okay? We all have an opportunity to recognize spirit and light, but we don't always have the opportunity to recognize flesh and soul. Because again, most of us just walk that area of flesh and soul, never really understanding what it is. And so we don't really dive into it, okay? And so when we look here on this side, the three feathers represent the three areas of light energies. So we have purple light, which is source light. We have blue light, which is the collectiveness of consciousness. And then we have white light, which is the old individual light of consciousness. Some people refer to it as Christ light, choice of free will, okay? When we come into this area here, if you notice the eye, the green eye, okay, that's your heart. That's your heart sense watching, okay? Now, you have a dark tear and a blue tear. Now, I want all of you to think about this, and this is one of your tests for today, okay? How many of you out there cry? Probably most everybody. I mean, I do. I'm no different than you.
I love the fact that you've been so open about that, because actually there's a lot of people out there even now that still believe crying is weak.
Yeah, no, and this is going to explain it right here, okay? And we'll show exactly if you are weak. There's a test to this, okay? So think of it from this perspective. If we're of spirit and light and flesh and soul, and we are emotional, is it the spirit and light energy that's emotional, or is it the flesh and soul energies that are emotional? Think of that. That's a deep question, and that's a whole class in itself. But I'm going to break it down really fast for you so we can move forward on this understanding, okay? So let's say tomorrow, one of you out there in the land out there starts crying, okay? This is what I would like you to do. I would like you to lift up your finger, put it on a napkin, dry it off, touch your tear, and taste it. Okay? Now, this is the difference between spirit and light tear versus flesh and soul tear. The spirit works off of energy through salt. Think of that.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it again. The spirit and light energy works off of salt. Salt is our energy. Okay? Flesh and soul doesn't work off of salt because it's ego. It's manipulative. So when you touch your tear and you taste it, if it tastes like salt, then that's a spirit and light tear.
Wow.
If it doesn't have any salt flavor in it whatsoever, but you kind of like think it tastes like salt, it's bullshit. Okay? Because again, your ego is going to be trying to play tricks with you when you test this theory out. It has no flavor. You shouldn't be crying. You're being manipulative to yourself. You're being a wuss. You're being a big boo-hoo. It's all about me. I need some attention. Okay?
Wow.
That's the difference. Okay? So all of you out there, remember that.
We've got a test.
Fully test. And you can check this out with your kids as well, because kids are very emotional. And sometimes their spirit and light energies are the ones that are emotional because they can't believe the circumstances that are involved going around them. And so their spirit is actually the one who is just crying out. Okay. It's not a temper tantrum, it's a spiritual tantrum. Follow me? Okay. Now, as we move up into this area here, we have the left versus the right, okay, within energies. Again, like I said, everything's time. Spirit and light's counterclockwise, flesh and soul is clockwise, okay? So again, that's up in our third eye memory. How are we going to work that energy? The triangle. The triangle is very simple. The triangle duplicates the energy of light source energies. Think of that. Why are there pyramids around the world? Why are everybody always utilized a pyramid? Is a pyramid bad? Is a pyramid good? Okay, think about this. Pyramids have been used for both because the power it contains. Okay, so as we're moving within this energies, we have to recognize we have three areas of motion. Okay, those are like canoes in our tradition. Okay, just so you know. Okay, you might think it's just a red face or a clown face, or those are canoes in our tradition.
I wonder what they were, but they're canoes.
Okay, all right. And so we have energies again as we're moving forward. And remember the test that we did before: the stream, the river, the ocean. Those are those three areas and where we're going. Okay, so it's all part of it. Now you notice this little section down in here looks like a bullseye. Okay, well, the bullseye is the third eye recognizing which of these three areas you are at. Okay, because if you're a teacher, you still are learning and grasping, but you're sharing. But if you're just a learner, you're not sharing yet, because again, you're not in the ability of understanding. And there's a difference between confidence and knowledge. Okay, confidence is an ego-based, just so you guys know, according to our tradition. Knowledge is a spiritual base. Confidence, flesh and soul; knowledge, knowing, spirit and light. Okay, now as we come down here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 areas. Those are your chakra energies. Okay, all of us understand there's energies. When I first started talking about energies, people were like, well, what do you call them? Well, in my research and stuff, because we don't have like the term chakras in our American Indian tradition. I'm just telling you, a lot of you are like that. I feel shit right now. He's bringing up a whole different tradition. Okay, but most people understand chakra energies. Okay, we just looked at them from source energies, third eye energies, because that's where we receive it. We didn't call it a third eye, but that's what it did. Okay, and so all of us have these energies. Now, the red part is the tongue, the communication, because all those energies work through the tongue. Think about that. If the crown energy comes in, how do I communicate it with? I communicate with the tongue. If the third eye energies come in, I communicate it with the tongue. No different than the throat, no different than the heart, no different than the solar, sacral, and root. Okay, we all communicate. And so that's the important part of the realm. Now, this section here is the heart source energy that we contain. These are the areas of cultural aspects, okay, the 4 directions. And as we look at through everything, the cosmal energy that comes into us, because again, we are of light source energy from the cosmos according to our tradition. Now, we all have heard of Halley's Comet, okay? What does Halley's Comet mean on a cosmic level? Anybody have an idea? In our tradition, it means the memory never leaves us.
Wow.
Think of this, okay? The memory never leaves us. Now, I'm going to go ahead and throw something in there within that thought. All right, BT, since you're talking spirit and light versus flesh and soul, where does the memory go? How does it never leave us? Okay. Well, think of it from this standpoint. The flesh and soul is a USB up drive. Okay. How many of you out there got a USB and you plug it into your computer? Okay. That's what the flesh and soul is a USB memory chip. Okay. Yeah. So when you die, but you really don't die in our tradition, okay, right before your last breath, the soul plugs in to the spirit. So the spirit's the computer, the soul is the memory.
It's the memory stick, yeah.
Okay. It plugs in, it uploads everything into the computer, to the spirit.
Yeah. So
as you die and you take that last breath, the spirit has all of your knowledge of this lifetime.
And it goes with it.
Okay. And then the spirit returns back to source and light.
Yeah.
Because it's at the highest frequency. Then where does it go? People ask. Well, where does this thing go? Some of you call it the Akashic records. We call it the collectiveness of consciousness. Okay. So it's the hugest library there is. Just like I have all the books behind me. I can go to any one of those books and pull certain information out. Now, if I want to do what it says in that information, I can. If I choose not to, I put it back on the shelf. That's how we all come here to Earth.
And what do you guys call it again?
The collectiveness of consciousness.
Collectiveness of consciousness, nice.
That's the blue energy.
Yeah.
So the blue energy allows the individual to be in tune with everything around them, okay? When it goes back to the library of that collectiveness, Lucy, myself, and others who are in spirit and light form, not physical form, we decide, well, we want to go check out this slave planet. Think of that. We have free will to do that as a spirit and light person. It's huge, okay? So we go into the collectiveness and consciousness and we say, oh, John Doe over here had a very exciting life, okay? He invented the automobile. He did this, he did that. I'd like to kind of have a life similar to his. And so we take that knowledge because we've read it, we understand it. Through spirit and light, we absorb it technically, okay? Because it's a frequency, it's an energy. And then when we come to Earth, we have a very similar path because we come with that frequency. Why do you think some people come here who do everything wrong, but they end up millionaires? Some people do everything right and they end up broke.
Yeah.
Okay. It's because they've utilized different memory sticks to interpret what they want to do here.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that make sense to you, Lucy?
That is just such a good way of putting it. I think I really, for me personally, I feel it. I just love it. The way that you've described that is exactly. And actually, when you were talking about it, I was like, I remember picking this. Like I remember, I didn't used to, but now I remember picking this. And I now remember what I've got to do going forwards as well, which is just incredible.
Yeah. And see, and this is where the next episode of Truth comes in.
I love this. This is like story time with BT. You've got to hit some thumbs up and put some comments if you want BT to do more education like this. I'm loving it. I don't know about you guys, but I am.
What do you see here, Lucy?
Lots of colourful lines. Well, squiggles.
Can you see anything a little closer? Can you see what's at the end of those squiggles?
Is it a snake's head?
Yes, it is a snake's head, Lucy. Good job there, girl.
Well,
I thought, oh my goodness, All these different colors are the different frequencies of individuals right now on this planet who are trying to take us down. Okay. Where do they come from? They come from source energy as well. Yeah. Okay. People who came here on a good path, but they chose to turn their knowledge to the dark side.
Yeah.
Okay. Those individuals will sooner than later end up eating themselves. Think of what I just said, will be eating themselves. In other words, the energies that they bring here are good energies in the beginning, but not always, and I'll touch base with this, okay? But most people come here with good intentions.
Yeah.
Now, when they start eating themselves is they do things that are so detrimental that it's so obvious that they are negative things that are occurring from these individuals. Okay. And when I say negative things, think of politicians who are one thing to the people, but once they're elected, they do negative things to the people.
Which is most of the politicians these days, right?
Correct. Correct. There's very few politicians that remain in that positive realm. Okay. And you also have to understand, I'm not speaking from hypothetical. I'm speaking from truth within my family history because of the deep state family that I came from on one side. Okay. So I didn't just come up with a conspiracy theory. I lived the actual area of truth. Okay. So this is an area that we have to understand within that realm.
So just before we move on, right, you said sooner or later people are going to end up eating themselves. Just go into a little bit more detail on that for me.
Okay. Spiritual truth will always come out at the end. Okay? Yeah. Spiritual truth.
And that's what we're doing right now. That is this whole cleansing, this whole ascension process we're going through right now. It is very much people are starting to eat themselves. And that's what popped into my head as you were talking, but I just wanted to get clarity on it. So at the moment, humanity is ascending at such a beautiful rate because we need to cleanse this darkness out. We need to cleanse these energies that have either come down here with good intentions and turned bad, or the ones that came down here just generally bad. And, you know, now it's time to get rid of those and cleanse those, right?
Right. And at the same time, just because somebody came down here to be bad doesn't mean that they always remain bad. I want to clarify.
Yeah.
Okay? Because once we receive the 3D, 4D flesh and soul realm, the spiritual light energy of free will choice comes in.
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of like the border dividing the feminine energy and the male energy. Yeah. So think of, you know, Trump building the wall. He's actually building a border to define who we are. Yeah. Are we going to be on this side of the border? Flesh and soul, male energy, destructive, you know, angry, resentful, hateful.
You just have to look at the wars, right? The amount of wars, and he's trying to pull the troops out, and there's other people saying, no, we need to keep them there. And it's, for me, that is a perfect picture actually of exactly what you're speaking about. You know, there's one side that is, let's stay at war, let's stay in the anger, let's stay in the fear and the panic. And then there's the other side, which is the light energy that's saying, let's withdraw from this situation. Let's withdraw from this and empower these people.
And when we look at the wall being built at the border of the United States, it really wasn't so much being built for the aspect of preventing people illegally from entering. Okay. It's actually was being built to prevent a lot of the chaos, as well as to protect our country for what is about to happen. Yeah. Think about what I'm saying.
And also just on that, you know, the subject that's very dear to my heart is it was to reduce and limit the trafficking and the other stuff, which is what I've been banned for, right? Yeah. That's what so many people around the world don't see, because they see it as it was a race thing. It was there was just so many, it's a nasty thing. It was done out of hate. Particularly where we are over here in the UK, it was very much insinuated it was done from a racial perspective. but it's much bigger picture than that. There is so much darkness on the planet right now that actually that wall had far greater meaning. And actually, I believe it's quite important for the energy going forwards.
It is. I call it a light wall.
Yeah.
Okay. So think of every, halogen lamp or LED or whatever you want to call it for light. Think of that thing just going across that border of the United States. That's preventing shadow energy from coming in.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Okay. Other people, like you said, looked at it from a different standpoint because their ego, their unattainable knowledge, because they choose not to attain it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Prevents them from seeing.
And there's a lot of that going on at the moment, isn't there?
There's a lot. And so right now, what we're going through, this is something that in my traditional belief, we see the 4 directions of women, okay, on each side of our planet. Okay, doesn't matter which location you're at, there's 4 women in your area of the UK that are spiritual women who are here to help humanity, period. Okay, 4 women here in the United States area that are here to help humanity, period. Same in Russia, same in all these other areas. What they're doing is they're bringing the road into humanity. We do have our wall to protect humanity, but we all return home, okay? And that's an important feature within our life structure because humanity is a real destined part of the cosmic plan. Okay, because once we get to the elevation point of knowledge and truth within ourselves versus what we think about ourselves, then we define ourselves at a much better rate so we can ascend much faster. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And just touching on that, where do you think we are in regards to like ratios with the ascension of humanity right now? Because I know that really by the 21st of December, we need to kind of be tipping 50% of awakened people. Where, like, what's your like intuition telling you right now? What's your gut feel on this right now?
It's real interesting because Carla and I were stuck on an elevator here the other day. I don't know if I shared that with you.
No.
We went to an appointment that we had, and we got into this elevator, okay, and we're going up, and it just stopped. God. And we're like, okay, it'll start up again. Well, it didn't. And come to find out, nobody heard us because there was no phone and no connection to the buzzard, and so we were just stuck in this elevator. Okay, so I'm like laughing and giggling, and because it doesn't bother me at all. I'm like, okay, whatever. There's a reason for this. Tell me the reason, Spirit. Okay, and Spirit says, look at where you're stuck at. Okay, and I'm like, okay. So this building went up 5 floors. Well, we were stuck in between the 4th and 5th floor.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Spirit's telling us, okay, humanity right now is stuck on 4.5.
Yeah, which is interesting because I keep seeing that we're at about 43%. Mm-hmm. God, we've got some work to do in the next couple of weeks, right?
Oh, we got a lot of work. Okay, but that's okay because work is pleasurable when it comes to spirit and light energy. Because it's never work. Yeah, it's never work. If you love what you do, you've heard this a million times that people out there, I'm sure. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
And you know what's really interesting? I had a lady reach out to me this morning, somebody I don't believe I've ever spoken to before. So if I have, I apologize to her. She reached out to me and she said to me, Lucy, explain to me how you have so much energy. Like you always have energy. How do you do that? And I said to her, I look after my physical, I look after my mental, I look after my emotions, and I look after my spirituality. But on top of that, and there's lots of things to those bits and pieces that I've just spoken through that I look after. But on top of that, I'm living my purpose. Yeah. I am 100% on my purpose. I am awakening the masses. I'm connecting them to their divine heart space, and I'm unlocking them from the shackles they've put themselves in. I am on my soul purpose. Even when I'm exhausted, I'm energized.
Yeah. Yeah. And the beautiful part about that energy, okay, again, I don't know if you've noticed this, but you probably have craved a little bit more salt.
Oh God, yeah, when you said that earlier, it was so funny. I was like, 2 years ago, I wouldn't have salt on anything. Now I have so much Himalayan salt. I'm like,
oh, yeah. Because see,
every meal, because I have to have it to ground me into my body.
Well, think of it this way, okay?
I know my tears taste like salt because I cried a lot yesterday, and they just would default going in my mouth. So when you said that earlier, I was like, oh my goodness. But I know that about me now.
Right. Well, see, but at least you understand. See, this is why. And again, no offense to the medical field that's out there. Okay, I say this with love and intention. Okay, no offense. But there are many doctors out there who say salt is bad for you when you overtake too much salt. Okay. Think of this on a worldwide level. If 2/3 of the population is not taking enough salt, then their spiritual energy isn't being brought to the highest point for them to actually recognize what is transpiring on a flesh and soul side. Okay. I'm just saying it. Think about it. If you disagree, that's fine, but think about it.
Yeah. Okay. And from my perspective, I'm totally in agreement with you. I feel, I had a conversation with my mother earlier today. I love my mum very much. I'm very close to her, but she's very much 3D, slips into 4D every now and again, but very much if the medical say it's what you do, it's what you do. Like that's her path, and I love her for it. But obviously I'm completely the other end of the spectrum, and I'm saying, because my uncle's pretty sick at the moment with brain tumors, and I'm saying, okay, I get what the medical industry are doing, but like, let's look at the holistic stuff at the same time. Like, let's do a combination of the two. And it's not so much there's a dynamic in that side of the family that there's somebody blocking it. I'm not too sure who that person is, and it would be unfair for me to make assumptions, but for me personally, exactly what you said, it's about recognizing that there is so much more that we have been suppressed to.
Right.
And by little things like salt, by the water that you're drinking, by the foods that you're eating, simple things like the amount of sugar in your diet. Some doctors out there say that fruit is bad for you because it's got sugar. I mean, seriously? I healed my physical vessel from tumors using fruit and vegetables. But there's doctors out there that say it's bad for you. And I just think, I know they're doing the best they can with the information that they have been given. But at some point, you have to question where Mother Nature has literally given us stuff. Clearly, it's intended for us.
And if you look at it from a mental standpoint, 3 areas that will control the human body, okay? GMO foods, fluoride, and the lack of salt.
Yeah.
Period. And if you take those 3 things away from a human being, you can manipulate the mind.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. And it's quite interesting because earlier today, one of my little sisters said to me, I don't want this orange, it's got pips in. And I was like, babe, you need the seeds to be in there to know that it's real. I don't like it. But this is what's so interesting, right? It's about cheap, it's about convenience. When people say, I don't want grapes, like, I will not eat grapes unless they've got seeds in. Right. Particularly the black ones, because of all the problems that I've had with my blood and with the tumors and stuff in the past. For me, I love black grapes or red grapes, but they have to have the seeds in for me to be able to get the goodness into my blood.
And the seeds have what they refer to as oligomeric paranthocyanidin complex, OPCs. OPCs are the highest form of concentrated oxygen molecules that are like compressed like a trash compactor over time. And so those, when we eat that, our body absorbs the purest form of oxygen. And that's what we have to heal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting because intuitively, when I disappeared from the UK, when I had my incident in September 2018, and I hopped on a plane to get away from the doctors that wanted to remove my womb, as soon as I landed in Sydney, Australia, I was hunting out like the grapes and anything that was a dark red, purple color, but loaded with seeds. And I was just, and it's amazing when you actually listen to your intuition, it knows how to heal itself. And, you know, within 6 weeks, I'd passed them. Literally 6 weeks, within 6 weeks, they'd gone.
Yeah, no, I hear you, girl. I hear you. I mean, it's an amazing attribute to you in the aspect of listening and following what you're being guided to do. Because so many of us get the knowledge, what I refer to as the knowing from spirit, but because of the ego that we maintain, and all of us maintain it, okay, just a matter where we allow it to be in check or not. Yeah. Okay, but we all have an ego, like it or not. Okay, doesn't matter if we're a walk-in or not.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay, and so like right now within this spirit and light energies versus the flesh and soul energies, this is what we're going through here in the United States. Because again, the frequencies are much different. And so this is the United States flag upside down. Most of you out there probably understand what an upside down flag means. It means that, you know, hey, we're in distress. Okay. We have the American eagle, which is our area of liberty and freedom, represents here in our country. We have the medicine bag, which as an American Indian is very important because that's where we hold our traditional beliefs and our knowledge of plant medicine, of different things that are going on, okay? The yellow are the seeds right now. And so what we're doing is the American Indian first has to go through a transformation of reseeding their own beliefs, okay? Because there are many American Indian tribal communities right now that believe in socialism, that believe in having others dictate to them who they are, because they've been indoctrinated since the beginning of time. Okay, so what we're going through here in the United States is a reseeding of our nation. And that's where the spirit and light energies here in the United States are at a apex of like a teeter-totter. Okay, I don't know if any of you out there have ever been on a teeter-totter, you know, or even know what a teeter-totter is. Okay. But a teeter-totter is basically when we were kids growing up, we had a piece of a log on the ground one way and another log that was much longer going the opposite way. And one person would get on one end and sit down on it, and another person would get on the other end.
Call it a seesaw.
Okay, well, you call it a seesaw. Okay, we call it a teeter-totter. Okay,
love it.
Yeah. Well, that's what we call it here in the States. And so right now we're going through this aspect of change. Who is going to be in control? Okay. Now the question is, because one person is stronger than the other or heavier than the other,
yeah,
there's always been an unbalance. Okay. The question is right now, is humanity going to allow the other person or the other energy, so to speak, okay, yeah, to bring itself to a neutral plane? And that's where the spirit and light energy versus the flesh and soul energy need to be, or are required to be. I hate to use the term need because it sounds like entitlement to me, but has to be at that balance, okay? Because once we get into a balanced realm of spirit and light versus flesh and soul, then this is when the humanity of shift changes dramatically.
Yeah.
And even though it might be a little cattywampus, off balance for a little bit, we'll still go through some change. But once it settles itself back down, that's when you're going to see some huge changes, not just here in the United States, but across the world where you're at. Yeah. And a lot of people are seeing, you know, like with your Brexit and things like this, that, you know, did we put the right person in? Did that person sell out? Did this take place? I mean, there's a lot of questions going on right now.
Yeah, there really is. And what I heard, I don't know where, I've got no clue. But what I heard literally just before we started was that Boris genuinely thinks that nobody's going to notice that there's no Brexit deal.
No.
I mean, come on, mate. You know, so it's from my perspective at the moment, I truly feel that everything is starting in America. So that's kind of like the pivotal point right now, but then it's just going to be a mass ripple across the world. And I feel that there is going to be a lot of shock. There is going to be a lot of shock that people have willingly put their head in the sand.
And not only put their head in the sand, but they're also put it in a few other places as well, and not in a positive aspect, so to say. They're sticking their head in the sand, but they're also sticking their head in other people's areas that they have no reason to be in.
Yeah.
And it's like the old saying, you can't fix someone else until you fix yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. And there's a lot of people out there in the spiritual realm who are healers, who have many, many difficulties, but yet they're out there working on other people.
Energy.
And I have a real difficulty with that. And I've been known to call people out on that, because again, if I have a crappy energy around me and I'm living in this energy, and you come to me for help and I work on you, you're going to get some of my crappy energy. I hate to say it, but you are.
It's quite interesting. I had a scenario recently where I went to somebody. I don't know why I was drawn to go and speak to this person. Anyway, Spirit blocked me. Spirit blocked me twice. Appointments were set up and the person never showed up. So of course, after the second time, I was like, "Nah, right, that's it. I'm going to cancel." And actually, it was after when I was going through the cancellation process, the person was very, very nasty, very nasty. It took me weeks to get my money back, all sorts of different things, and it was very, very interesting. And my intuition knew. I didn't need to see this person. It was more of an ego thing. I wanted to go because I was like, well, I want to see what this person does. And it was very much driven from ego, but thankfully Spirit stopped me.
Yeah.
Because that person could have been dabbling in my field.
Oh, I tell you, girl, I've seen it happen so many times. Well, see, look at it from this perspective. Okay. And again, I always suggest, I never tell anybody to do. I try to correct myself if it comes out that way, like, hey, I really mean suggest. Okay. Yeah. Because suggest is one of the strongest words in our vocabulary that opens up our intuitiveness. Yeah. Okay. It'd be like me telling you, Lucy, you do this. You'd be like, fuck you, BT. Okay. I mean, you might not, you might say it a little kinder, like
probably not.
But you would say it, okay?
Yeah, I would. Yes.
But if I say, I'm going to suggest this to you, and it allows you to make that choice.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think,
yeah. And again, it was really funny because when I was going to school, and Carla and I were talking about this today on some spiritual aspects that we were going through today. She said, well, some people here on earth never have that ability to understand spirit and light. They don't understand the path and the differences. Okay. So they're like locked into this slave planet. Okay. And I'm like, well, no, none of us are ever locked into anything because of the free will, the border. Okay. The question is, do we recognize the border? That's the key. Okay. Do we actually take the opportunity to say, you know what, although I've been told this, it doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't feel good. Am I going to accept it? Okay. And then that's when your own personal responsibility has to come into effect, into detail, to do the research, to either find out that, yes, this is the way it is, according to whatever systems that you're doing your research in, or is it outside of that and it's not that way? And so you have to have that free will of choice. And that's the biggest thing here on the spirit and light versus the flesh and soul, is the aspect of free will. Because again, the spirit is not a friend of the flesh. The light is not a friend of the soul. Two different energies, two different frequencies, but yet we always return home to spirit. Yeah.
Fascinating.
So those are just some of the aspects of where we're at today within that aspect of spirit and light versus flesh and soul.
I love it. Honestly, I think I really feel as if everybody is going to get such benefit out of that, because it's almost like you can conceptualize what's going on around the world right now. If you're woke to it, obviously, you can conceptualize, well, that's the flesh side of things. This is the light side of things. And actually, it's beautiful the way that you've described it. And I've loved all the pictures. Literally, I'm like, yay, I want to go to school with BT again. Why
Well,
can't I do that?
well, it's funny. I did a lot of artist and painting stuff when I was a kid. Okay.
Amazing.
And then when I got into like 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade and stuff, I was really like excelling in my art. Then I had a teacher that liked my art so much, she kept all my art and I never ever got it back. And so I got really pissed. Never picked up a paintbrush again, ever. And then in about 2008, somewhere in there, Spirit says, okay, you need to pick up a paintbrush again and put some stuff down. And I was like, man, but I haven't painted in so long. I need to go back to learn how to paint. Spirit's like, no, you don't. You have it. You understand it. Yeah. Just do it. And so I did. And so when Spirit downloads me with information, there's times where I'll get up in the middle of the night and just do what Spirit guides me to do. Let it be reading, some of my books or painting or go sitting with the stones and walking the course of life and, things of that nature. But it's really important to have that ability to listen and to recognize that spirit light energy is communicating with you, because so many times within our world, I ain't talking the big picture, our world, okay, we tend to not see the rest of what's happening, and we have to be able to see the rest of what's happening.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing, honestly, absolutely amazing. And it's what's quite interesting is Spirit has been telling me very clearly for the last few weeks, get on and write the goddamn book, finish the goddamn book, literally, like, and today I actually did some more writing. So I can really resonate with the fact that when you're channeling, like, whatever needs to come out and it needs to go somewhere. So, I love it. I love speaking with you. Literally, I love it so much. You're so good for my soul and everything that you speak about, because I have not done any research into, your native background and everything like that. But it resonates so deeply on a cellular level to me. It really does. And I love speaking with you. I could just
we enjoy our time too. It's important, and it's important once everything gets, to a point where there's some peace and tranquility around the world, that we're able to go ahead and come over to the UK as well. I know you mentioned coming here, but it's very important for Carla and I to do the things that we do too, because there's so many places that have cultural similarities within traditions, that are unified.
Yeah.
And I mean, the American Indian traditional beliefs vary so dramatically. I mean, there's a lot that are one way versus the opposite. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that, because again, that's each of our own upbringing and belief system. The problem is when it gets infiltrated, like the American Indians of the United States did, through religion and government. There were many times where the Paiute tribe, who did the ghost dance, was deemed not to be able to do that, because the Americans at that time knew the strength of the ghost dance. And they knew that it would bring in spiritual realms for their defeat. And so they prohibited the American Indian from doing it.
Wow.
So there's a lot of things that take place. It's no different.
Yeah, I feel, because I do, it's normally every other year I do something at Glastonbury. But because of this year, it's just, I don't even know what's gone on this year. I don't think any of us do. But I see us doing something at Glastonbury. Genuinely, I do. It's interesting because when you said to me before about doing something in the future, I've already got in my head what's going to be happening next year, and I see you being a massive part of it. Like I do. And I don't even know what it's going to look like right now, but I see our energies coming together, because I said to you before I got on, before we started recording tonight, that, you know, I've been told very clearly to just shut down, buckle up, and I'm coming back in January. You know, January is the time when I need to come back and support people in the way that they're going to need to be supported at that point. And I see the fact that your intuition reached out to Sarah Lees and said, I need to speak with this girl. I know that what we need to do is for the next phase of humanity. Like, I just know it, I feel it, you know,
Right.
and I'm excited to do it.
Well, I tell you, there's so many people that come into our lives, okay? And it isn't always necessarily that person's meant to remain in our lives, but it's also, you know, a plus when they do, but it's also a plus too, because people of the spiritual realm always lead, for the most part, in my personal experience, to other people of the spiritual realm.
Yes.
And it's all of us coming back, like, you know, to one big bonfire, one may say. And instead of burning books, we're burning the light to shine on the shadow energy of the world.
And it's interesting because that's what I see a massive bonfire. I see us in Glastonbury, a huge bonfire, teepees, that kind of thing. It's just
that'd be great. I'd love to be at a teepee.
Take me to a teepee, let me have bare feet, get them in the grass. We'd have to do it in the summer, obviously, because it's way too cold here outside of that. But that's exactly what I see.
Yeah.
So everybody watching, we'll get some dates when we can, and you'll all have to come to our little festival or whatever we decide to call it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh, BT, it's been amazing to speak to you. I love your wisdom. I am just blown away by your energy every time we speak. And I know all of my followers love you. Like, they love you so much. They're like, yay, he's back again. So thank you so much for your time. I'm just going to stop the recording, honey, and then we can carry on chatting. So everybody, thank you very much for watching. It's been our absolute pleasure. You'll have to comment so that he has to come back on again and do some more stuff with us really, really soon. And thank you for watching, guys. I'll speak to you later.